So it's October. Halloween is coming up. So I thought, why not review some scary movies? And sorry I haven't uploaded in like a month. So today I'm going to be talking about Shaun of the Dead and The Lost Boys. Let's start with Shaun of the Dead. So Edgar Wright's first film, Shaun of the Dead, is about a loser named Shaun, played by Simon Pegg, who has just been dumped by his girlfriend and lives with his friend Ed, played by Nick Frost, who is an even bigger loser. Suddenly, a zombie outbreak happens, so Shaun and Ed go to save Shaun's mum, an ex-girlfriend, and just try to survive the zombie apocalypse. Now, what I really like about this movie is how funny it is. I think that the funniest scene is probably when Shaun and Ed are throwing records at the zombies. But Shaun of the Dead isn't just jokes. It actually has some quite emotionally intense scenes, especially towards the end. And the acting is also really good. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are both great as Shaun and Ed. They're both hilarious, but they're also very believable in the more serious scenes. So, if you haven't seen Shaun of the Dead, I would definitely recommend that you watch it. So now let's talk about The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys are those brothers, Michael and Sam, who move with their mom to a coastal town where the local teenagers are vampires. So what I really like about The Lost Boys is the characters. Michael and Sam, played by Jason Patric and Corey Haim, are both really entertaining and likable as the main leads. And Kiefer Sutherland's vampire character, David, is really badass and cool. He's possibly my favorite movie vampire. And Corey Feldman and James Newlander are both really funny and entertaining as the Frog Brothers, who are the two kids that tell Sam about the vampires. I also really like the 80s feel that this movie has. This movie really feels like it came out in the 80s, but like not in a cheesy and hard to watch way. It has that cool 80s style that movies like the original Terminator have. Fun fact about The Lost Boys: it was directed by Joel Schumacher. Rest in peace. People remember Joel Schumacher for the shitty Batman movies, but he actually made some pretty awesome movies other than those. So overall, The Lost Boys is definitely one of those awesome Joel Schumacher movies. And if you haven't seen The Lost Boys, I would definitely recommend that you watch it. So continuing on with my scary movie special. Last video, I reviewed Shaun of the Dead and The Lost Boys. And today, I'm going to be reviewing Scream and Child's Play. Now, I have reviewed both of these movies on Letterboxd before. And no, I'm not being shameless and asking you to follow me on Letterboxd. I would never do that. But there is a link to my Letterboxd in the description, so if you want to follow me, you always can. Anyway, let's start with Child's Play. So in Child's Play, serial killer Charles Lee Ray, or Chucky, is shot to death in a toy store, but he uses voodoo magic to transfer his soul into a good guy doll. When 6-year-old child Andy Barkley gets Chucky for his birthday, Chucky starts killing people. Now I really love this movie. I think it was like Number 3 on my favorite horror movies list on Letterboxd. Now, the main thing I like about it is Chucky himself. Chucky is known to be one of those horror icons like Freddy Krueger, who has a really entertaining personality. And we do get to see that entertaining personality in the second half of this movie. But for the first half, it's more of a mystery, because when we see people being killed in the first half, it's always from Chucky's point of view. So the viewer doesn't necessarily know if it's Chucky or if it's actually Andy. Now, today everyone knows it's Chucky because, it's famous. But back then, some people probably actually would have thought it was Andy. So I like that it's a bit of a mystery in the first half, but I really love it when Chucky is revealed. Brad Dourif played Chucky and Charles Lee Ray in the opening scene, and he is amazing. He has a very charismatic and entertaining personality. He's a horror icon for a reason. So overall, I really love the original Child's Play. And if you somehow haven't seen Child's Play, I would definitely recommend that you watch it. Now let's talk about Scream. So in Scream, a psychotic serial killer called Ghostface taunts an old victim's daughter, Sidney Prescott, and kills her friends in this really self-aware movie. Now, Scream is one of my favorite horror movies. I think it was number 2 in my favorite horror movies list on Letterboxd. And the scary thing about Scream is that Ghostface doesn't feel superhuman. He is just a psycho in a mask. Most of the major horror icons weren't really human. Jason was pretty much a zombie. Michael Myers was sort of human in the first Halloween, but in the sequels that was changed. Freddy Krueger and Chucky weren't human, but that was kind of the point. But Ghostface is very realistic, and that makes him so much scarier to me than those other characters. And Scream is also a whodunit, because you don't know who Ghostface is until the end, and that really helps to separate it from the crowd. But the movie isn't just scary, it's also very fun. It has very self-aware humor, and that really works for me. And the characters are very entertaining. The main character, Sydney, is my favorite final girl in any horror movie. And that's mainly because she is pretty badass, and she doesn't really take any shit from Ghostface. I also liked Randy, because he was really funny and entertaining. My favorite scene is probably when he talks about the rules of a horror movie. So overall, I really liked Scream. And if you like horror movies and you haven't seen Scream, I would definitely recommend that you watch it. So continuing on with my scary movie special. Last video, I reviewed Child's Play and Scream. And in this video, I'm going to be reviewing The Evil Dead and Halloween. Let's start with The Evil Dead. So in The Evil Dead, 5 teenagers visit a cabin in the woods and accidentally resurrect a demonic force using the Book of the Dead. Now I really like this movie. What I like about it is how it is pretty cheap, and you can tell how low budget it is. I know it sounds strange, but just hear me out. This movie is very inspirational to me because of how Sam Raimi was able to make a movie with such limited resources. I like to make my own short movies, and I've pretty much no resources, so it feels hard at first. But I think about movies like this, and it makes me think that if they can make a movie with such little resources, then maybe I can too. And for a movie with such a low budget, it has some pretty amazing shots. The shots give it a very distinct feel, and there is no other film that I know of that is like The Evil Dead. If I want to have the experience that I get from watching The Evil Dead, there is only one movie where I can get that experience. So if you haven't seen The Evil Dead, I would definitely recommend that you watch it. Now let's talk about Halloween. So in Halloween, escaped maniac Michael Myers returns to his hometown Haddonfield and kills babysitters. Now I really love this movie. What I really like about it is how it's able to build suspense. When I watch it, I'm always on edge. And I think that that is because of how they use Michael Myers. In the first, 40 minutes, he doesn't kill anyone other than in the opening scene. And they have a very effective way of utilizing him. A lot of scenes play out like this. A character will be doing something, and then they'll see Michael Myers. Then they'll get distracted and look away for a second. And when they look back, he's gone. And what also makes it really suspenseful is the iconic music. But this movie isn't without its flaws. Even though the acting from Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis is pretty good, some of the acting is pretty awful. Especially from that one girl who just can't stop saying, "totally."
Totally wiped out. Totally.
But that isn't a huge problem, so it doesn't really detract from the movie for me. So if you haven't seen Halloween, I would definitely recommend that you watch it.